Okay, today we will start to learn how to create decision table and decision tree. From the name, you can understand that when we need to take the steps, create the graphical structure of some decision taking process, at that time only we use this type of structure, decision tree and decision tables. Often in our problem, solutions required for decisions to made according to two or more conditions or combinations of conditions. In that time, we will use this type of decision tree and decision table mechanism. Decision tree actually represents such decisions as a sequence of steps, and decision tables describe all the possible combinations of conditions and the decision appropriate to each combinations. Decision table is a matrix representation of logic of a decision which specifies the possible conditions for the decision and the resulting actions and best used for complicated design logic. So decision tree and decision table actually is the best way to describe the complex type of decision logic, and decision tree is also is useful, but in some time decision tree, if the size of the tree is very large, then it is very complicated to adjust it into a single page, or if it is multiple page, then it will be very tough to handle the that type of situation. So first we will learn the decision tree. A decision tree gives a graphical view of the processing logic involved in decision making and the corresponding actions taken. Each edge of decision tree represent the conditions, and the leaf nodes represent the actions to be performed depending on the outcome of the testing the conditions. So decision tree is a graphical view of processing logic, and it is actually looks like a hierarchical structure, tree like structure, and each tree we know that it is consist of some nodes and some edges. Each edge of a decision tree represents some conditions of the problems, and each leaf node are the actions or outcomes of that conditions. Okay. Now, further, we will look it better if we go through an example, and we will find out how to create the decision tree also. Now, consider the following example. If the customer account is built using a fixed rate method, customer account is built using a fixed rate method. A minimum monthly charge is assessed for consumption of less than 100 kilowatt per hour. This is a electricity bill generation process, and if the bill is depends on the fixed rate method, then a minimum monthly charge is assessed for consumption of less than 100 kilowatt per hour. Otherwise, it apply a schedule A rate structure. If it is fixed rate, so our condition is if it is fixed rate and the consumption is less than 100 kilowatt, then then there is the action is minimum monthly charge. But if the consumption is greater than 100 kilowatt, and it is a fixed rate, then it apply a schedule A rate. However, if the account is built using a variable rate method, so there is another type of method, that is variable rate method. A schedule A rate structure will apply to consumption below 100 kilowatt, so less than 100 kilowatt, and if it is variable rate method, then schedule A structure will be applied with additional consumption bill according to schedule B, and if it is greater than and the consumption is greater than 100 kilowatt, then it's scheduled for an additional schedule B process. Okay, so this was the problem. Now we will show how to draw the decision tree for the problem. So first we are creating what is the name of the problem? The name of the problem is electric consumption. Okay. Billing. So it has two types. Sorry. So it has two types. One is fixed rate and another is variable rate. Okay. So the problem is defined into two process. First, it is this arc is defined as fixed rate, and this arc is defined as variable rate. So this is fixed rate, and this is the variable rate method. Okay. Now we will look out the fixed rate method. If the minimum monthly charge is assessed for consumption of less than 100 kilowatt. So if the monthly charge is less than 100 kilowatt per hour, then what is the action? This is the action: minimum charge. Okay. The next condition is otherwise apply schedule A. Otherwise means if the value is greater than or equal to 100 kilowatt per hour. Keep in mind that this type of equal to symbol is very much useful to your project. If you do not put here equal to sign, that a single number, if it is 100, then what it should be done, that action is not should to be expressed here. So keep in mind to use this type of equal to symbol, greater than or equal to, according to the requirement of your requirement. So if the value is greater than or equal to 100 kilowatt, then it is schedule A. Okay. So this type of for the fixed rate, all the variations are here described. Suppose in such times, sometimes it is not shown that what should be if it is equal to 100. Then you have to raise a question to the that is actually an ambiguity to your software requirement specification, that if the condition, if the kilowatt is 100 equal to 100, then what should be done. Okay. Now in the next phase, if it is a variable length, a schedule A rate structure will apply to the consumption below 100 kilowatt. Okay. So if it is below 100 kilowatt per hour, then schedule A rate will be applied. Okay. And with additional consumption bill according to schedule B. That means if it is greater than is equal to 100 kilowatt per hour, then schedule A for first 99 kilowatt and schedule B for above 100, sorry, for greater than is equal to 100 kilowatt per hour. So if it is with additional consumption bill according to schedule B, that means Here the question is not here the problem is not described actually. It should be if the rate of structure will apply to consumption below 100 not this should be above 100 kilowatt. In that case, it should be greater than is equal to 100 kilowatt for schedule A for first 99 kilowatt, and schedule B for less the greater than of that is the next which is above 100 kilowatt. And so these are the actions, and all these are the conditions. Okay, these are conditions and these are actions of this decision tree. I think you are very much I think you will understand this. We will move to the next example. The next example is library membership management software LMS should support the following three options: new member, renewal, and cancel member. So there are three conditions: new member, renewal, and cancel member. When the new member option is selected, the software should ask the member's name, address, and phone number. If proper information is entered, the software should create a membership record for the new member and print a bill for annual membership charge and the security deposit payable. If renewal option is chosen, the LMS should ask the member's name and his membership number and check whether he is a valid member or not. If the member details entered are valid, then the membership expiry date in the membership record should be updated, and the annual membership charge payable by the member should be printed. If the membership details entered are valid, an error message should be displayed. If the cancel membership option is selected and the name of a valid member is entered, then the membership is cancelled and a check of the balance amount due to the member is printed and his membership record is deleted. Okay, this is not a check, this is not a choke, this is a check. Sorry, CHEQUE, that means checkbook check. So this was the problem, and now we will find out what is the how to draw the decision tree for the problem. So this is a library management membership management software. It has first three condition: new member, renewal, and membership. So if it is and they also here it is described that number and check whether he is valid member or not. If the member details entered are valid, then the membership expiry date in the membership record should be updated. Actually, this validation will be done at the first time of your project, that the member is valid or not. So first we will write down that valid selection. This arc is for valid selection. If it is valid selection, that means if it is yes and if it is no, then it is described in two conditions. That means if it is no, then it directly give the action that it display error message. Okay, if it is not a valid selection. But if the selection is valid, then we have to find out that he is a new member or he is here for renewal or he is for cancel membership or not. If he is a new member, then what are the actions are taken? First action is ask for members name address আর কি ছিল members name address phone number etc. And then the second action was create the membership. And the last action was create the membership and print the bill. Okay, if he is a renewal, this is a renewal process and the member is for here for renewal, then the first is ask membership details. Membership details means maybe it is member ID or some anything or OTP etc. Then update the expiry date. Look here, it is if the renewal option is chosen, LMS should ask the membership name and his membership number and check whether it is a valid member or not. If the entire are valid, so this validation check is also we have done in the previous at the first stage. If you may change it here, you may change this add this condition into this position, that is renewal position. You may check that it is valid or not. If it is valid, then this. If it is not valid, then this. No problem. Okay, ask the membership details, update expiry date and the print bill and print the bill. If he cancelled process, the member came through the cancel process option, then ask the membership details, and then delete the membership. You may add here additional arc due to checking that the membership is valid or not also. Delete the membership and then print the check. Okay, so this was the decision tree example for the problem. Next, decision table. A decision table shows the decision making logic and the corresponding actions taken in a tabular or a matrix form. So decision table is a table like structure. The upper rows of this decision table specifies the variables or conditions to be evaluated, and the lower rows specify the actions to be taken when an evaluation test is satisfied. A column in the table is called a rule. A rule implies that if a certain condition combination is true, then the corresponding action is executed. Here all these are actions. This is one action. Ask for the numbers, name, address, etc. Create the membership is another action. Print bill is another action. Ask membership details another action. Update expiry another action. Print bill already said here. Ask the membership details already said here. Delete the membership one action. Print the check another action, and display error message. These are the actions available here. So here the column of the table is called the rules. A rule implies that if a certain condition combination is true, then the corresponding action is executed. Here the rule is if that method is validate and it is not validate, then display the error message. This is one rule. Another rule is if the validation is true and input is cancel membership, then these are the actions. So this is another rules. So each and every individual path in this picture are the rules for the decision tree. So we will look forward for the decision table. The condition stubs, that part of a decision table that lists all the conditions relevant to the decisions. So in the condition stubs, we will make out all the decisions or conditions which are relevant to the decision. Action stub, that part of a decision table that lists the action that result for a given set of conditions. Then after writing all the conditions, we will find out all the actions of our problem. Then we will make out the rules, that part of a decision table that specifies which actions are to be followed for a given set of conditions. So these are the rules for which conditions, based on which conditions, which actions are to be taken. We have to find out this. And the next one is indifferent conditions. In a decision table, a condition whose value does not affect which actions are taken for two or more rules. If there are such type of conditions which for which the decision rules are not affected, any one of the decision rules are not affected, this type of conditions are called indifferent conditions. That means on behalf of that conditions true or false, it does not affect your problem. Okay, so first problem here, it is the same problem of the electric consumption bill. If the customer account is, there are two type of bills, fixed rate method and variable rate method. And there are two types of there are another two types of condition, that is consumption of electricity less than 100 kilowatt per hour and consumption of electricity greater than is equal to 100 kilowatt per hour. These are the conditions available here. So what we will do, we will create the table on basis of the conditions. So first we will write all the conditions. The first condition is fixed rate account. The next is variable rate account. Next is consumption is less than 100 kilowatt per hour. The next is consumption is greater than equal to greater than or equal to 100 kilowatt per hour. Next, so first you have to write all the conditions. So keep in mind that if you missed one condition, then it is a very big problem for your decision table. So all the condition you have to figure out at the first to create the decision table. After writing all the conditions, and then you have to write all the actions. So first action was one is minimum charges, schedule A, schedule A on first 99 kilowatt and then schedule B. Okay, so these three conditions are available for our problem. There are no other conditions and there are no other actions are available for our problem. So we have to write out these conditions first, then all the actions according to in a single column. Now we have to write the rules. These are the rules available. Rule 1, Rule 2, Rule 3, Rule 4. This is a small problem. Now we have to find out what was the first rule. The first was if it is a fixed rate account. If it is a fixed rate account, select this, and the consumption is less than 100. In that case, minimum charges are applied. So we will put a tick in the case of conditions, or you may tick true, you may write true, or you may write on. Okay, you may choose any one of these. You may put tick, you may give the T, or you may give on off. You may use true false TF, you may use T, or you may put on. Anyone you may choose. Best one you tick here. So this is the fixed rate account. And then the consumption is less than 100 kilowatt. In that case, and the actions are minimum charges. Every time, all the actions are to be put in a cross sign. Each and every time, all the actions are described here in a cross sign. Do not use any other sign in case of action field. Okay, this was the first condition. Next condition, if it is a fixed rate account and the consumption is greater than is equal to 100, then the applied for schedule A. Next condition, if it is a variable rate account and consumption is less than 100 kilowatt, then it will apply schedule A. Again, if it is a variable rate account, consumption is greater than is equal to 100 kilowatt, then the condition is then the action is schedule A on the first 99 kilowatt, and then the schedule B for the rest of the kilowatts. So there are no other rules available for the problems. So up to this, our decision tree is completed. As this is a very small example, so there are only 4 conditions are available, and if the problem is very large, then this type of rules will become larger than any other small problem. Then we will show another example for the library membership problem. In this example, we will find out the decision table, how to draw the decision table. So we have to first write down all the conditions. So the first condition is it is a valid selection or not. Second condition is new member or not. Third is renew member, renewal or not. Fourth is cancellation or not. So I think all the conditions we have chalk out and written here. Now we should write all the actions. First action is display error. Second condition is ask member name, address, phone number, etc. Next action is build customer record. Next is print bill. Next is ask members details. Next is update expiring date. Next, print check. And last is delete record. So this was all the actions available for the process, for the problem, and the conditions, and now the rules. The first rule is if the valid selection is, if it is valid selection, that is no. Sorry, if it is valid selection, so here one condition we have missed here. It should be a invalid selection. So if it is invalid selection, and then the action is display error. Okay. Next, in case of second rules, if it is valid selection and he is a new member, in that case we should ask the first action is ask member name, address, phone number, etc. Build or create customer record, and then print bill. The next rule is if it is valid, then renewal. Then if it is renewal, then ask the details, update expire date, and print bill. If it is valid and cancellation, then ask the membership details, print check, and delete record. Okay, so there are no more rules. So all of the rules available here. These are the rules. First rule, rule 1, rule 2, rule 3, rule 4. And these are the conditions, these are the actions. So these are the decision table. So even though both decision table and decision tree can be used to represent complex program logic, they can be distinguishable on the following three conditions. In case of readability, the decision tree are easier to read and understand when the number of conditions are small. On the other hand, if the number of conditions are very large, then a decision table causes the analyst to look at every possible combination of the conditions which he might otherwise omit. So the readability of decision tree is very much easier if the problem is small. And the next point is explicit representation of the order of decision making. In contrast to the decision tree, the order of decision making is abstracted out in the decision tables. A situation where decision tree is more useful is when multi-level decision making is required. So decision tree is more useful when multi-level decision making is required. Decision trees can more intuitively represent multi-level decision-making hierarchically, whereas the decision table can only represent a single decision to select the appropriate action for execution. So, the decision tables can only represent a single decision to select the appropriate action of the execution. Each and every column of the decision table actually gives us the each and every roles. The representing the complex decision logic. The decision tree become very complex to understand with the number of conditions and the actions increase. If it is a large problem, number of conditions and actions are too more large. In that case, these decision tree are very complex. It may even be to draw the tree on a single page. A single page, you cannot adjust the whole decision tree into a single page. When very large number of decisions are involved, the decision table representation may be preferred. Okay. So these are the difference, some pros and cons of the decision table and decision tree. And thank you very much.